All right, we're back. It's COMP100. It's week 9, lesson 9, part 3. I think it's part 3. Let's take a look. Yes, part 3. All right, and we just finished talking about local variables and scope. And again, remember what I asked you to remember before is variables live and die within these curly braces, right? It creates its own scope. Scope only is between these code braces. Okay, this is good. Okay, so here's something that we talked about: writing methods that require a single argument. Right? This is slide 20. We did that already. We did this one, where basically this is what you need, the type of the parameter. So in other words, we need to know if it's an integer or a string or whatever, right? We need to declare a local variable. So this is what we did here. Look, here is the type of parameter we're getting in. Our type of parameters are random, and we actually need a local variable. This random, this RND, has nothing to do with this RND. We're just using the same value. We're passing this in by value, right? Whenever I pass stuff into a method, it's being passed, only the value is being passed into it. But they're actually two different memory locations. So the memory location of this random right here, take a look. This is just a container, right, for a memory location. The memory location for this one is a different memory location than this one. Actually, it's almost like I'm taking the first random that I've named random, this one here on line 13, take a look. How do you? Yeah. Line 13, I declare a variable called random, RND, this one right here. I take this one, and when I pass it into roll random number, this method, it's like I'm pouring it into the method, right? I'm making a copy. I'm like almost like pressing a button and going zzz, copy that, the value of that of RND into the method. I can't change it in here, the value of RND. When I pass it like this, I'm passing it by value, which means I'm just making a copy from this into here. That's all I'm doing. The only way I can get anything back was with a return, which I've done in this method here. I'm returning not the value of random, but the random number now back out, and we have to specify what type of return we have on the way out. And that's what these things mean. That's what all this syntax means. So here, our main method main, does it return anything? No, and that's why it has void. So it doesn't return anything. Now you don't always need to return stuff, right? You can return nothing, but your method might do something. It might be a utility method that does something, like print stuff out. Like for example, our wait for key. See this wait for key right here? Take a look. Here's our wait for key. What if we made this into a method? A right click, refactor. Oh, this is a shortcut. Take a look. And I go rename. And it says, oh man, please select the symbol to be renamed. Well, I meant to do this. Right click, refactor. Instead of rename, I want to do extract method. If I do extract method, it says, what's my new method called? It's called wait for key. Wait for key. I'm making this up. And press OK. When I do that, boom, my wait for key comes here, and then I have a new wait for key method down here. It writes it for you. And not only that, but it also gives you this private access modifier up here too. In fact, all of these right now, I can put private in front of them because they're all part of the same class. So I can put private instead of all these methods, and that's what we should do when we create methods inside this class, right? So I created this wait for key method right here, and where is it being called? Right here. Yeah.
For specifically the wait for key method, in the real world, you would want to make that public, just in case you're gonna, because it's always a repetitive.
No, I can call it over and over again within my private class.
Yeah, I know you can't, but I'm just saying in the real, like.
If I wanted to use it somewhere else, I could make it public.
Yeah, because we always, like, every time we do signing, we always use that. So.
Well,
It would be a good idea to do it like that, right?
it's true. It's true. I've also defined my own snippet, my own code snippet. I did it. I'm not going to show you guys how to do this. It's a little bit
Snippet or
advanced.
snippet?
Well, remember when I do this? When I go, here's a snippet. If I do CW, right? That and tab, I get console.writeLine, right?
Yeah. So
You
you
guys
can
know
do
how
a
to do that.
snippet for
Wait for key. Yeah. Here, I made my own. Let's show you. I'm going to show you my own snippet that I made for wait for key. Let me show you. I made that today actually in class, right? So I made my own snippet. I just erased wait for key. I call it wait for key, right? Watch this. Now it's going to be. Actually, I should do it over here, outside. Wait for key. Tab.
wow.
Right? And in here I can go wait
It's
for
so
key.
fancy.
Right? Oops.
That's cool.
Yeah, so now when I run it, it's going to have my new wait for key method, right? In there. Wait for key. Now you can write your own snippets, but I'm not going to cover that in this course. We'll cover it in part 2, right? Because we don't have time, it's outside of the scope. But for now, you can see that I can generate something like that really quickly with the snippet, right? Snippets are really useful. Okay, let's go back to this for a second. But if you notice, this wait for key is a private static void method. It's void, which means it doesn't return anything, but it does do stuff. And this is my fancy wait for key, like we talked about, right? Hey, I also have another one that I made today. I have another one. I'll get rid of this wait for key for a second, right? Ravina likes this one too, right? Hey, Ravina, here's a new one that I made today. Remember this one? Menu. Look at this. Hattie. Tab.
That's huge. That's
Yeah,
like
man.
5 minutes of
Typing.
time.
And I can call what? I can call menu in here like this, right? Main. It's actually called main menu. Main menu. Right? And in my main menu, I can just run it now, and I have. There we go. Now the selections don't do anything. I got to fill all that in, but the code stub is there. Right?
You can also technically make selections and have them as just you're able to customize them for your contacts.
I could do all kinds of stuff. Okay, so you can make your own code snippets. Okay, so but the idea here is that if you notice this, there's 2 utility methods. I've got actually 3 now. I've got one of them that's wait for key, which all it does is wait for a key. I got another one that does roll random number, which all it does is roll that. It's only actually 1 line of code. I could add other things in here too if I wanted, right? And there's another one here that does method with its own A, which is just passes in its own A, and it kind of is a demo for how to create your local scope, right? And actually, what we should do is not return anything from here because the original example didn't have us returning anything; it was returning void. Right, and when we go back up here to wait method with its own A, it did this. Okay, that's the original way of writing it. Okay, so again, when we require a single argument, we need the type of the parameter to pass. So if I'm passing you the ball, Eddie,
Yeah.
right, I need to tell you what type of ball I'm passing you. I need to say it's an integer.
Yeah.
It's a string. Ravina, it's an array, right? I can pass arrays too. I can pass whatever I want. How would I pass an array to a method? That's weird, right? I'm passing strings. I can pass strings, integers, decimals, booleans, doubles. Now I want to pass an array to a method. So we know we can pass stuff to a method. How would I do that? How would I write that over here? Oh, let's make the array first. Let's see. I want to see if you're right. Okay, so here I'm going to make an array. We're going to make this an array. A string, a funny string, a string array, right? Called, my name, a name string. Here it is, my name string. So name string, it's going to be equal to a bunch of names, right? I'll make it equal to, John and Mark, Matthew, Luke. I don't know why I do that. And let's do another one, David and Jason. Okay, I got this crazy names array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements in my crazy names array, right? I want to pass my names array, Ravina, to another method. Here we go. I want to print this, and I'm going to call the method, right? I'm going to call it here. Let's declare it first. It's going to be display names, the display names method. So here's display names. That's the method. And you know, my display name method, I need to declare it as private static void, and I want to pass into it an array. But what it's going to do is it's going to take that array and print it out, print out the array. So it's going to do a for loop, and it's going to be of type array length, right? So whatever the array length is, and in here I'm going to print out the each element of the array. Or maybe, which is a better construct. Sorry, all I'm doing is just wait. A better construct would be, instead of an array, a for loop, I might as well do a for each loop, right? Because this is a better construct. And I want to do an array of whatever this thing is here. So I'm just kind of outlining right now. All right. How do I pass in here into my display names method, my whole array? Here's where I'm going to call it display names. What do I pass in here? Okay, how do I pass it in? Just names by itself, or do I pass in brackets? What do I do? Just names, the name of the array. So like this, names. This is a little bit confusing sometimes, because when you see this, you're like, what the hell is he? What? The array doesn't have brackets. I don't know what he's passing in here. Well, I'm making a copy of the whole array. This whole array is being copied. Remember, because I'm passing by value, not by reference, right? I'm passing it in here to names. Well, let's actually see what happens, okay? And I want to print out inside my collection. I'm going to say, okay, it's a string array. Here's my local declaration, string array. I'm also going to call it names, a local variable now, same name, right? And inside my names array, I want to take the name of my name array and print it out. So console.writeLine. And I'm going to say name. I'll print it. Always do that. Make sense? So this display names method is going to be called up here, and I'm going to pass into it the whole names array. I'm going to take it, make a whole copy of it, pass it into this. I'm going to throw an array over into the method. It's going to receive it here because that's what it's listening for. It's listening for a string array. See right here?
Wait, why did you pass it to the bottom part of the method?
It's not bottom. This is another method right here.
Up, go back up.
Huh?
You said display.
I take the name of my array. The variable is called names. Display names is my method, which is down here. This is my display names method, right? My display names method is taking in a names array, which is coming in here. I just called the same thing. And my local scope, it's called names, and I'm printing names out. Let's try this out, if I don't get an error. All right. Okay. I don't see anything. Oh, it went away because why? I did it after wait for key. Let's try this again and move this here because it does it after I wait for my key. Sorry, let's try this again. Okay, cool. There's my names. John, Mark, Matthew, Luke, David, Jason. Okay, let's try something. That's the whole array. What if inside my local loop here, my local array element, I want to make a change to one of the names. Will it change up here? Will it change one of these names up here? No, because this is a copy. Let's see if that's true. So before I print it out, I'm going to make I'm making my local copy, and I'm going to say my first name, the first one. So names, I'm going to say 0 because that's the first one, right? Name 0, we're going to make that top. because that's me, right? Okay, name 0 is Tom. I'm passing it in. So now it should say Tom instead of John. So it's going to be Tom, Mark, Matthew, blah, blah, blah. Let's try. And there it is. Tom, Mark, Matthew, blah, blah. Okay, good. That's cool there. But now I want to do the same thing back in here. So I want to do another for each loop. The same for each loop. We'll just do the same copy of this stuff. We'll go, what? Right, copy all this. And we'll do it again over here. And we'll say, but this one, we'll say this name, we'll go like this, plus in main, right? That's what it's going to be. And we'll say down here, the name plus in display names. You know it's inside the display names method. Okay, whatever the name is, and then name in main. Okay, so let's see if these two arrays are the same. So first we'll go into display names, and then we'll come out again and see if they're different. Run. All right. Oh man, what happened? I thought it was a pass by value. Ravina, what happened? Take a look. Here's my Tom and display names. Mark, Matthew, Luke, David, and Jason. And then I come back in main and it's the same. Tom, Mark, Matthew, Luke, David, and Jason. Oh yeah, show the code. Isn't this supposed to be passing by value? The arrays are different type. When you pass an array to a method, because it's not a value type like data, like for example, normal data like integers, doubles, strings, and other things, when you pass an array into a method, it passes the reference. It's actually passing the real array into this thing here. So when I change an array in here, I change the array back in main too. This is the only time when the scope is broken. Why? Because I'm going outside the scope. Remember, scope works when I pass things by value. But here, I can also pass things by something called reference, which means instead of me creating a new variable that points to a different memory location, and in fact, what I'm doing is I'm setting the variable, the value of the variable. I'm not setting the value, I'm setting the reference. I'm setting the memory location of the variable, so it's pointing to the same variable. The only way that I can send a different array in here is if I make a copy of it. Like literally create another array and create a copy of this to this. So this, when I make a change here, in this local scope, I actually make a change up here. And so I wanted to introduce that to you. I'm not going to talk about arrays for a long, long time, passing things into the methods, but just remember that there's different kinds of types. There's value types and reference types. And most variables we're going to work with are all value types: integers, decimals, doubles, booleans.
Example of a reference type.
Classes are reference types. All right, they're bigger constructs. They're more complex. Think about them as complex data types. All right, other kinds of collections. Huh? Lists. Yeah. So let's leave that alone. So just so we know that it happens. And this is a great example of where this breaks the paradigm, the idea of scope lives and dies in the scope. Yeah.
What about loops?
Loops are not array. They're not variables.
You can't.
They're not variables.
Enums?
Nenums are not reference types or value types. Depends on where they are. But I want you to understand this because people make a mistake. When you send a name, like this name, into something, you expect it to come out unchanged. You're just passing in the value of it. But the right thing to do is, you need to do this anyway because it won't be available. You won't be able to see the name in here unless I did that, right? This scope from here to here, right, as an example. Actually, this should be, just to make it even equal, it should be over here. This scope in here, inside this display names method, right? I can't see the value of names in here anyway. The only way I can see it is if I pass it in. And then once I pass it in, I actually pass it by reference. And then I can modify it. So if I want to make a copy of it and make it something different, I'd have to make another array, copy the values, each one of the values into another array, modify that, and then do something.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. So don't worry about it. We're not going to do arrays and passing things by reference for a long time. In fact, we won't do it until part 2. So I want to mention it just because if you get confused and you try and do something like this in one of your projects, it's going to mess you up. You're going to, how come this is changing? I don't understand. Tom said it lives and dies in the scope. Well, this is the unless it's a reference type, right? And if it's a reference type, it doesn't live and die in the scope. Most of the ones we're going to use, integers, decimals, doubles, floats, booleans, all the other ones, they live and die in the scope. Simple variable types. Okay. Let's take a look at this. So here's an example of double. This is a method we're just declaring. It's called display sales tax. It's a new method. It's got private access modifier. It's only good within this class. Static, which means I don't have to instantiate the class. Void means it returns nothing. And I'm passing into it sale amount. Here's my sale amount, which is a copy because it's not a value, it's not a reference type, it's a value type. It's passing a copy of the sale amount into here, and I'm making the change. I mean, I'm calculating my tax, and I'm writing it out to the console. It's a good example of a local variable. So whenever it comes into here, inside this scope, sale amount now is a local variable because it's a value type that lives and dies inside this scope. Okay? We've done this before, so I'm going to move on. Here's the full code. So here's my main. I have my purchase price. It's $12.99. And my display sales tax, I put my purchase price into my display sales tax method. It receives it. It's a double here, my purchase price. It's a double here, my sale amount. Even though they're using different names, it's the same value. I'm passing in $12.99 inside here because I'm taking this variable and I'm passing it in. And I have to receive the same data type as I pass in. Here's what I'm passing in. Here's what I'm receiving. The receiver and the sender have to be the same. If they're not, we have some weird implicit conversion, which we don't want. We don't want to convert stuff. We don't want ever, remember going back to one of those first lessons, we never want to let the machine convert for us. We want to tell it what to do. Because when we let the machine do its work on its own, we don't know what the result is going to be. As programmers, we have to be control freaks. Okay, we have to control every aspect of our code. We can never let the code do it on its own. If we do that, if you let things run by implicit conversion and inference and all this other weird stuff that's done sometimes, bad things can happen. You can get inconsistent results. It'll mess you up. You won't understand what's happening.
Unless you do it explicitly, right?
If you do it explicitly, that means you're telling what to convert, and that's good. Converting things like, for example, if I wanted to receive an integer, but I'm passing a double, I have to do my conversion to integer first, and then I can pass into double. Right? I don't want to pass different values from outside to inside. So if on the outside, let's say main is the outside of this display sales tax method, I don't want to pass in there an integer. If I do that, it's weird conversion goes on, right? Or the other way around. I don't want to pass in a double, and let's say this inside my display sales tax was an integer. It would just cut the digits off. That's not what we want, right? So we want to match these up as much as possible. And here's 2 ways to do it. One, I'm actually setting in a variable called my purchase price, my purchase, and the second one we're calling it again, and we're passing in a literal 35.67 directly. We don't hold it anymore. We're just passing the number in. We can do that too, right? Because it's just literal. It's like saying 1 + 1 is equal to 2. If I can do that in a console.writeline, right? I can go 1 plus quotations 1 is equal to, and I can go 1 plus equals to 1 + 1. I can do that. Here, let's show you that. So if I want to do a console.writeline, we never did that example. I should have done that with you. Right? Here's a console.writeline. And if I want to calculate 1, right, plus, and I say, I'll put in like this. I'll show it like this, 1 plus. What do the pluses mean here?
They mean actual background pluses.
Hold on. Okay, I'll say this. Ever see this? You must have seen this before. Take a look at this weird code. Yeah, see, you know how you just furrowed your brow. You went like this. What the hell, right? What am I doing here? 1 plus, I'm concatenating it with this string. So now 1 becomes a string, right? 1 plus 1, right? Here's the other string. And I'm concatenating it with this string, right? With this equal sign, right? And I'm equaling to plus, now I'm doing an actual calculation, 1 plus 1, which means it becomes 2. So if I run this thing, it's really weird. It looks like 11. How come it did that? 1 plus 1. How come it didn't give me the value of 1 plus 1?
You have to what?
Because here, when I do this plus, I'm concatenating this to my string. So this becomes a string. Right? But if I do this, which is string interpolation, and I do this, right? That's a different thing altogether. And if I do this, save and run it again, I get 2. That's just normal syntax. See, but we don't think of those things, right? We don't think of what this whole thing means, right? So we can do this calculation here, right? I can write this even simpler. I can go 1 plus, and then instead of this, I can go plus 1, right? Plus equals to that. Right, so here's 1, the value of 1, an integer, a literal. But when I use the plus operator with something in quotations, guess what happens to this literal? It becomes a string. Automatically, it's converted. This is what we talked about, implicit conversion. I convert actually it's explicit conversion. I'm converting my number 1, my literal number 1, into a string. It converts and it adds on. It actually concatenates. It takes one string now. It gets converted into 1. Takes it, smashes it together with the other one, and then it says smash this one together with this other string that I'm going to put together, and now add it with this string. Oh wait, there's some inference types. Okay, now take this value here, add it together, and put it in there.
So if you were to take out the what's it called again?
The
end part. What's it called?
This interpolation.
Yeah,
this
interpolation.
placeholder.
If you were to take out the placeholder
Yeah.
and take out the interpolation, what would the
I can't do a comma then. If I did this,
yeah, so if you take out that.
then it would be 1 plus 1 is equal to 11. Yes, I could do 2. So that would be
2, right?
So if I did, she's saying if I do this, if I put braces in place, and this is because I'm doing operator precedence, right? So this, if I put braces in place, this calculates brackets. Remember bedmass? Brackets, exponents, division, you know, and so on. Multiplication, addition, subtraction. Yeah.
I mean, like, so take out the.
See.
No, but take out the. Yeah, take that out. Go back.
Brackets.
Yeah, back.
Yeah. To where?
Like just to the end of the quote, the end of the equal string. Like take everything else out.
I can't take this out. If I take this out,
I
it's
just
going
want
to
to
be
see
an error.
what happens.
Yeah, I get an error.
No, and then now you put an actual equals sign. Like
What,
2
here?
equals.
I can't put 2 equals. 2 equals is a comparison.
So there's no way to make it run without having that.
But anyways, the idea here is the same thing that we're doing here in the example. If you look at the example here, we're actually dropping in a literal. So the value 35.67 is going into where? Into the sale amount. Look, here's sale amount. Here's the value. This value is being copied by value into here. So now if we do the calculations, 35.67 is the sale amount. We take the sale amount, multiply it by the rate, which is 0.07, right? And we're going to get the tax. And then the tax is on the tax on sale amount, right, which is 35.67, is equal to is my tax, which is 7% of 35.67, whatever that is, which is something like, you know, $3 and something, right? So that's what it works out to be. That's how this works. We pass something in here. We can do it with this variable. We can also do it with a value, like an actual hard-coded value. Okay, we're almost halfway there. Okay, writing methods that require multiple arguments. So we did one argument, right? But we can make methods that look like this. Look, I have one argument, and then I have another argument, and I separate them by commas. So I can have multiple arguments in here, right? I can send a couple of things inside a method, not just one. I can send in 5 things inside of a method, as many arguments as I want, but they have to be in order. So when I send things to a method, right, I gotta send them in the order that I'm asking for them. For example, this one has 2 doubles, right? If you notice, again, just my 2 doubles, right? I got a double and a double, 2 doubles. This private static void method is taken, right? And the one double is called sale amount, and the other one is tax rate. I take sale amount multiplied by tax rate, and I get a tax. My tax is a local variable in here in my method. And when I calculate the tax, it's actually a local variable that lives and dies within these curly braces. But I'm actually passing the value of sale amount, whatever that is, and tax rate into this method. Right, those 2 things. Okay, so there's 2 values, and I separate them with a comma. Okay, good? 2 values. How do we do that here? Let's do the same thing. So for each name and names, well, you know what? I can pass in as many names as I want. I can do a name array plus, you know what? I want to pass in my random value. Let's do that. So here's my random value, which is a type random. And you know what? I want to make it so I show a name. So, okay, the random name is going to be from random.next, right, from 0, right? I want to actually do it 0 to the length of my array of names. So name.length. Right, so it's going to be the random value, right? That's going to be my one of those. The actual number I'm going to pull out is from 0 to 6, let's say, right? And I'm going to take this random number and I'm going to call it an index. So I'm going to call up here. I'm going to make a new local variable up on the top. I'm going to call this local variable. I'm going to call it index, and I'm going to initialize it to 0, right? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say index, this local variable, is equal to this random number between 0 and the length of my name array, right? And now I'm going to print my random name, console.writeLine. So random name, whatever it's going to be, I'm going to use string interpolation, and I'm going to go comma, right, names, and brackets, index. Right, so I'm using the random to get this random number, right? I'm passing two different parameters in here, but here, up here where I created it now, I can't just send in one. When I declare my method, here's my method. My method is declared with 2 parameters. I got to send 2 parameters. I have no choice, and I have to send them in order. One has to be a string array, and the other one has to be random. My random number variable. So here I have to do names, comma, random in order for me to complete the array, complete the call. When I call a method, anything I send to the method has to be defined in the method header, right? So if I want to receive a certain parameter in my method, I have to define it in my method header, right? And when I send it, it has to be what I'm asking for. Clear as mud? Okay, let's run this thing and see if it works. Okay. I'm going like this. I'm saying random name is Jason. Okay, display names, right? And then my random name is Jason. Let's run this again and see if I get the same random name. Random name is Mark. Right. And let's try it again. Random name is David. Right. So I keep getting random names from the name array. Right. But I'm passing it in two parameters into my display names method. Two. First, a string, and then this random seed. And I have to do the same thing up here when I call them. Right? First, the names, then the random seed. Right? And if you notice, I'm only calculating this random name once at the bottom of every display name call. Right? If I wanted to run it within the for each loop, I could do that. It would be funny. But I would pull a random name out along with these other names. Kind of a useless example, but still, at least you get the fact that I can pass in multiple parameters, is what they're called, or multiple. They're also called arguments. You're going to hear these things that I pass into the method. They're called two things: parameters and arguments, right? And you're like, how? Why is it called arguments? Who are they arguing with, right? They're not arguing with anybody. It's just the name that we use in computer science. We call them arguments. We send the arguments to, it's almost like we're talking. It's messaging, right? I'm arguing, I'm sending information to the method, and I'm listening, I'm receiving information inside the method. Whatever I'm talking and sending to the method, and whatever I'm receiving has to be the same data type. If I don't do that, if I have a mismatch, I'm going to get an error. And this is where when we run into issues, because now we have multiple calls. What if I pass it in the other way around? What if I pass in, the random number first and then the name? It's going to be wrong. It won't work. I need to pass in both the same type of data types, in the same order. If it doesn't pass into the same order, I get an error, or some weird implicit conversion occurs, right, where it tries to convert whatever it can from one to the other, but you can't convert a random number into like a double. It doesn't work like that. It'll be weird. You can't convert a string in a reference type to a value type. It won't do that either. Right?
Okay.
See it.
Thank you.
And we're almost done. 7 more minutes and we're out of here. Actually, we should be freaking done right now, right? So let's leave it for now. I don't think we only made it halfway through, right? And we took this long to kind of get through this whole thing. I'm gonna give you some practice next week, a little bit more in class, right? We won't do a test next week. We'll do the test the week after, right? And what I'll do next week is I'll give you a new assignment, and we'll do some assignments in class next week as well, so that way we can practice methods like mad, because we got to practice them from now until the end, before you get to your exam, okay? Because this is where the main thing is going to be. So we're going to stop here where it says method that returns a value. We covered this method that returns a value, but I want you to try it. I can talk this stuff. You can watch this all day, but until you try this stuff, you won't get it. You need to try this out. I need to give you something more challenging. So I'm going to push this to GitHub right now. So home, changes, I'm going to say added, what did I add? Or updated, I'll say updated display names. Updated display names to take 2 parameters. And of course, I didn't change anything, so. Let's add some code. Hold on a second, that's weird. That shouldn't have happened. Takes oops, takes 2 parameters. Is that weird? That's weird. That's really weird. Unsync commits. That's weird. Won't allow me to do that. Oh. That's why. Well, that was weird. Okay. Now I've updated everything. Any questions around? I know it's a lot of stuff to absorb, but let's talk questions. And for now, I'll stop recording.